breaking news coming to me from an hour ago. We have a Middle Eastern man who is attempting to break into a school in Coleraine in Northern Ireland, and he was actually apprehended. He was arrested by a citizen's arrest of 3 men that actually arrested him at the school. Crazy video today. You can actually see a picture of the man right here. He looks Middle Eastern, North African, or could be South Asian as well. We don't really have a clear image of him, I think, till the end of the video. But we have a full news report on this as well, so stay tuned till the end of the video because we actually have a full report on what this guy was doing. Apparently he was harassing students and kids in the school, the primary school, and he was trying to gain access and enter into the school, which is madness, guys. This is happening every single day. We need to now remigrate a lot of people, guys. We need mass deportations immediately, or else the country is completely finished. Everybody knows that now. If you don't believe that, you are just a mainstream shill for the Irish government. And you can check out the video right here. They kind of beat him up, 3 people, and no police to be seen. No PSNI police to be seen, of course. This is like the aftermath of the video.
We're directly behind this bus stop as the playground. Where there's been a Pakistani male who's trying to enter the school via the fence behind me here.
So you can barely hear what he's saying here, but I'll do some translating. He said it's the middle of the day, like 2 p.m. and there's a Pakistani man who is trying to gain access to a school in Coleraine in Northern Ireland. Okay, everyone is very familiar with these areas. This is happening daily. People are super familiar with Coleraine. Okay, this is actually a very common area that a lot of people would know about, and these psychopaths are trying to gain access to the school to do God knows what. Are they going to stab people in the school? Are they going to shoot people in the school? Are they going to sexually assault people in the school? Why are these Pakistani random men running into schools? It's a flipping nightmare what's happening now.
Full of children at the time. Members of the public had to apprehend this male and contain him until the PSNI arrived. They only arrested this male. Like I said, behind me is a playground full of children. I'm down here now. Today, folks, going to have a wee scout about and see if I get a word with any members of the public or witness to them. But me personally, I'm just trying to have a wee scout about and check everything's all good. And just a wee message to the public, guys. If this isn't a good enough excuse now, folks, they come down and protest tonight. Then I don't know whenever will be. 4 o'clock. At 4 o'clock, sharp down at the council offices. We'll be down there today protesting about these HMOs, about uncontrolled immigration in this country. We want an end to it now, guys.
So you couldn't really hear exactly again because the wind was just crazy. But he said there's going to be a protest today at 4 p.m. Okay, so that would be over at the time of making this video. But they'll be protesting down at the local, government offices, because he said if there's no protest now, there never will be, to protest against this mass immigration. We have this problem in the Republic as well. Northern Ireland, obviously, people are flooding in from the UK, and the UK has an overflow of people coming from Scotland, Wales, and Britain, of course, England. So they're flooding into Northern Ireland. They're just taking a ferry across. And then a lot of the time they come down from Northern Ireland to Ireland as well, to the Republic. So it's just a disgrace.
And this is a telltale sign that it's only going to get worse. Eventually our children are going to get raped and attacked. This beautiful primary school behind me here, there's many children of parents that I know that attend this school. So we need to do something now, folks. It's now is the time to stand up and do something about this.
Enough is enough.
So he said, eventually what's going to happen is students are going to get attacked, sexually assaulted. Unfortunately, that's already happened in Ireland. The City West Hotel, a 10-year-old girl was sexually assaulted by a 27-year-old man in the foyer of the office of the actual City West Hotel. Disgraceful stuff. We've had tons of attacks, guys, already. It's not that it's going to happen eventually. We've already had these attacks happening en masse. Okay, and there needs to be mass deportations. There needs to be closed, shut borders off to let none of these idiots into the country unless they have documentation properly. And it's complete cowardice. You could see here the guy was all tough and everything until the people confronted him, and then he started screaming, like a little bitch, guys. Okay, and that's just how it is. These guys are all tough when they're in groups of people, when they're in big groups with each other, or when they're attacking kids because kids are vulnerable, or attacking animals because we've seen them eating animals off the side of the road. You know, they're all tough when they do that, guys. But then as soon as they're confronted by anybody, then they bitch up, okay? They're just little bitches, guys. And just to give some context to this video, here we have a Facebook post, I believe, of one of the people that was involved in this. It says, I've been contacted by members of the public to let me know that there is an ongoing incident at Ballysally Primary School. Okay, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Ballysally Primary School. From the information I've received, it said that a Middle Eastern man, Pakistani man, tried to enter a school and was detained for 20 minutes by members of the public while time was given for the police to arrive. So the police, it took them 20 minutes to arrive to a sexual predator or potential murderer to a school. That'll tell you guys how much time it takes for the police to get there. The police come after the incident has happened. There could have been 5 or 6 kids killed, sexually assaulted by the time the police arrived. That's why the public have to now defend the public themselves. We have to defend each other. We can't rely on the police anymore. The police take 20 minutes to show up. That's far too late. The whole school could have been murdered with a knife. Everyone could have been killed in this school or sexually assaulted by the time the police arrived. 20 minutes is way too late, guys. It's way too late. It's way too slow, and everything is going to be already happened by the time they get there, guys. She says, scary times, but that is all the information that I have at the minute. I'm sure we will learn more in the coming hours as an administration of our Northern Ireland Voice official has taken upon himself to go and investigate this matter. So we don't even know much what's happening. There's obviously this blur of extremes, what's happening in the country. We don't know exactly what's happening day to day, minute by minute in this country. There's no sort of clear recognition of what is happening because the government won't release this, and nor will they show this on the news. Best believe this will not be on the mainstream news, guys. They protect the immigrants from all this crime. Quite often, these incidents aren't reported publicly due to the possibility of hate being shown towards an individual or people of similar race. ONIV will always report on these matters as this is a public interest and concern. It shouldn't matter about whether your race or identity is known, guys. Obviously, we should know the race and identity of these people, even if it's going to cause racism, guys, which is just a made-up bullshit term used to discredit people that are actually spoken facts. Now what's going to happen is there has to be security at schools because, like the guy said, the school was full of children. Of course it was. I mean, who else would it be full of? But, like, literally the schools are always full of people, and there's no security, there's no police with weapons to protect these kids with guns. If somebody comes in with a knife, how are you supposed to protect the kids? How are you supposed to protect anybody? I mean, it's a completely lawless country. Like, if you think about things, guys, we're really helpless towards the criminals. The criminals have the narrative, they have the initiative, they have the weapons, they can attack us, kill us, do whatever they want to us, and we can't do anything. And speaking of the useless police, here in the Republic of Ireland, the Gardaí are to change the approach to protests in the wake of the Whitegate fuel blockade. Here's a recommendation I would tell the Gardaí to start with. Don't pepper spray kids or attack the locals, okay? If farmers are placing blockades to try and preserve their future, okay, of putting from food to fork, you know, putting the farming animals to the fork to actually help the Irish race survive, don't pepper spray them and send in the military. How about you sit down and have a talk with them? Why doesn't anybody want to talk anymore? Why is it always we bring out the guns and we bring out the flipping pepper spray and the military trucks to remove the tractors? And why don't we sit down and have a nice peaceful talk, guys? Why can't we actually discuss things and have a little bit of collaboration? Why does it always have to be such aggravation when it comes to the Irish Gardaí and the state and the people? Now everybody hates the Irish government, the Irish Gardaí, and the flipping Irish Army. Like, in the Irish Army, they were sent in to remove the blockade. Now, bear in mind, the fuel protests were only 3 weeks ago, and Garda Commissioner Justin Kelly says, I think we would see a far different approach if we had the blockade this weekend. But that's complete cop-out, guys. This is him trying to save face. This is him trying to pull back and say, oh my God, we screwed up massively. We shouldn't have sent in the riot police, the flipping public order unit. We should have actually sat down with them and had a discussion with them. We shouldn't have attacked these people. They're attacking our own people. It's absolutely horrendous stuff, guys. Now it says here that Mr. Kelly defended the Gardaí's use of pepper spray at the Whitegate protests, saying that the Gardaí had to deploy it because protests failed to heed Gardaí warnings to move. But that's what a peaceful gathering is. We have a constitutional right to peacefully gather as a people, and that right was stripped away from us. Our constitutional rights were stripped away from us that week. Completely. I wasn't even allowed to go and drive into the protests. On the Saturday night, I drove to Galway, and of course, the Gardaí said, if you drive past this point, we're going to arrest your ass. So, of course, What am I going to get arrested and get put in prison? And I can't highlight these nonsense things anymore? No, of course not. So it's a crazy public display how we couldn't get 20,000, 10,000 people to come out for these fuel protests. We had a few thousand people, and that was it. You can get 80,000 people to come to an All-Ireland final, a GA final, but you can't get a few thousand people to come and save the nation. That's what happened, guys. Think about that for a second. If you're one of those people that sat behind and did nothing, didn't come down, didn't highlight it, didn't speak up about this protest, I mean, you're the worst person ever, guys. Unfortunately, that's what it is. If you didn't know about it and that kind of thing, if you don't live here, fair enough. But just even posting about it on social media was enough, because then you get more people to go out there. You're highlighting what happened. What they try to do is they try to make it a far-right protest, and they try to say anyone that went down there is far-right and a lunatic, and these people should be completely shunned from society. And we couldn't get anybody. We couldn't get 40,000 people. We couldn't even get 10,000 people to go to these protests in Galway. The whole city should have came out for these people. This affects everybody. The fuel protest affected everybody, and nobody came out to see it. It was disgusting. The Irish people a lot of Irish people should be ashamed of themselves. What they did there, they absolutely didn't come out in numbers. Like I said, to go see a bullshit, soccer game or rugby game or a GAA game, you could get 80,000 people to go to a stadium, but you couldn't get 20,000 people to come and protest with the farmers. Think about that for a second, guys. That's how screwed up and how cooked we are as a society. He says nobody was injured in the protests, and that's kind of relative, because I'm sure the physical damage maybe wasn't crazy, but the mental damage, guys, the mental fatigue now the farmers have. Somebody literally killed themselves. One of the farmers killed themselves after the fact of these protests. That is a fact, guys. A farmer that was protesting up in Dublin went home and took their own life because they knew they couldn't support their family, couldn't support their wife, and they had nothing else to live for. Their business went under. That's their livelihood. Most people's livelihood is their entire life, guys. If they lose their job, then that's it. They might as well just leave this earth. And that's exactly what happened. So there absolutely was people injured. And there was one kid that even got pepper sprayed in his eyes. I've heard before getting pepper sprayed is worse than being tasered, worse than being shot. So pepper spray is absolutely deadly, guys. It can really hurt you. It was a double strength bear spray, okay? And if you're saying nobody was injured from that, that is completely clown show, guys. That's completely ridiculous. And then, of course, they have to bring in the far right. It says far right attempted to exploit protests and piggyback off the fuel protests and exploit them. The Garda Commissioner said adding this influence of far right agitators is a concern. They were seen on social media and in person at the protests, he said. People from the far right attempted to piggyback on the blockades and attach anti-immigrant issues to them, Mr. Kelly told the Thursday meeting. Now, who's he talking about? Is he talking about me? Because I went down to the protest. Is he talking about Michael McCarthy? Is he talking about Tom McDonnell? Who is he talking about? Okay, James Conway? Like, who is he talking about here, guys? But they'd never name specific people because they don't want to make them more known to the public. Another big concern was intimidation of fuel truck drivers, members of the Defence Forces and the Gardaí at the protests. And this is just not true, guys. Nobody was intimidating fuel truck drivers or the Irish Gardaí or the Defence Forces. The people who were intimidating was the Garda Commissioner. We had literally the General of the Army holding his hat with Helen McEntee saying, yeah, we're going to send in the military if they don't get out of there. Like, what do you mean? That's a threat. That's not flipping, threatening and intimidation. Of course it is. They were the ones that were threatening and intimidating people, not the people. The people were just standing there peacefully. There was kids and women and children. How could the women and kids, how could they be intimidating? Come on, guys. It's just absolute nonsense. All these news articles from the mainstream media are just bullshit, guys. Straight bullshit. An incident room has now been established in every Garda division to investigate complaints by Gardaí of abuse. I would never abuse any Gardaí, okay? And to be perfectly honest as well, guys, you have to understand, people want to blame the Gardaí, and you shouldn't blame the Gardaí for anything. They're just following orders from the state. If you want to blame people, blame Micheál Martin and all these different people that literally said, yes, go in with the military. Helen McEntee, Micheál Martin, and Simon House, they had to sign off and tell the Gardaí, yes, go in with the army. Yes, go in with the riot squad. Okay, they were the ones that told them to go in there, okay? Unreal. Gardaí miss children's birthdays and other important events, coming to work on their days off. Yeah, I say abusing them on the course of their work was appalling. Yeah, I never would abuse any Gardaí. I think it's ridiculous that they chose to come and brutally attack the Irish people, but at the same time, they're just doing their job, guys. It's just ridiculous. That's the orders that they're given, okay? If we had somebody in charge that would actually sit down with the protesters' leaders, this would have never happened, okay? Mr. Kelly said the policing of the fuel protests has been an overall success. Well, of course, the victors of war will always say they're successful, guys. The victors write the history books. Of course, it was a major success. According to who? According to the police and the Irish Gardaí and the Irish government? Of course it was a success, guys. To them, they removed them and they flipping, that's it. There's no backlash ever. Nobody got hurt. None of the Gardaí got hurt because everybody was peacefully protesting, guys. Everyone was just there standing around. There was kids eating flipping, hot dogs and shit, like whatever. I saw all this when I was at the Galway protests. So I don't know why they were thinking that there was going to be any sort of violence or anything like that. Just completely ridiculous. And look at this, guys. Threats from the Gardaí once again. Deputy Commissioner Shauna Coxon, who is Canadian, she is not Irish, said that if any such protests were to erupt again, Gardaí will move more quickly for enforcement. The Defence Forces were only ever requested for technical backup, but no request for troops on the ground. No request for troops on the ground. How hilarious is that? But they would eventually have asked them if it got bad enough, like if the lads in Sligo or Galway or Cork or Dublin were ever to bring out the slurry tanks, or if they were ever to be more resistant, they would eventually bring in the military, guys. And what would the military do? They have guns, they have weapons. What are they going to do, guys? Are they going to shoot the protesters? What are they going to do? I absolutely think that if it got to a stage where the protesters were so adamant that they weren't going to be removed, they would have eventually shot the protesters, 100%. Or, they could have flipping bombed them or something with pepper spray. Some crazy shit would have happened. Absolutely, guys. Because they would have treated these protesters as domestic terrorists. Understand? That's what would have happened. A review of how the fuel protests were policed is taking place and lessons will be learned from it. So far, there's been 47 summons and charges relating to the fuel protests with 166 fines issued. So if you went to protest with your tractor up in Dublin, you got a fine. You got a fine through the mail, 300-400 euro. Crazy stuff. It says here that body-worn cameras were successfully used during the Whitegate blockade. They proved a deterrent and potential abuse and asset. They proved a deterrent to potential abuse and an asset in public order policing. Now it said here, Gardaí wore them, found that several protesters who took out their phones to record the Gardaí put their phones away when they saw the Gardaí cameras. But I would just record them anyway, just for your own safety. I think you should be recording the police and recording everything at all times, always. It's just for everybody's safety. If we have it on digital tape to see what is happening day-to-day basis, it would actually be better, because then the Gardaí couldn't lie, the citizens couldn't lie that were protesting, so everybody would be safe, The Gardaí's cameras also caused protesters to disperse. I don't believe that at all. Why would a camera cause protesters to disperse, guys? You're on camera anyways. If you leave your door, guys, if you leave your house in Ireland and you go to Dublin City or Cork City, you're on camera 24/7 by CCTV, closed circuit television. So just the fact that you have your camera out or the Gardaí are recording on a body camera makes no difference whatsoever to whether or not you're going to be, liable for prosecution, because they'll just check the city's CCTV cameras. Ridiculous stuff. I love you guys all. If you want to support me, hit the join link underneath the video. Become a member today for just €3 per month. Help support me push back against the woke Irish liberal media to not listen to articles like this, complete nonsense articles. Gardaí would change the approach of fuel protests in the wake of Whitegate fuel blockade. And not that they would actually make it better and not hurt the Irish public. What they said is they would intervene quicker, okay? That they would actually intervene quicker. They wouldn't let it go on for so long. Like it went on for 5 or 6, 7 days, okay? Even 2 weeks in some areas. They would just immediately crack down on it straight away and send in the riot squad quicker, is basically what they said in this article. Nothing about being more friendly to the protesters, to the demonstrators. Nothing about that whatsoever. It was just that they would be cracking down on the crime quicker. Crazy stuff. I love you guys. Hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one, man. Peace.